What is the scariest, creepiest thing you have seen, heard? I was about 15 minutes from finishing the night shift at work when there was a massive crash on one of the windows in the office, so I get up and go to check it out. Someone has thrown quite a sizable rock through one of the windows on the front of the building. This is made especially weird because I'm working in the industrial district at 11:30 at night with none of the other businesses open. I go back to my desk. Put a quick call through to security to let them know and decide to head home. As I'm leaving the building, I'm freaking myself out about it more and more and end up running to my car, getting in and taking off. I'm almost home and I've started to calm down a bit when I realize that I didn't unlock my car when I got in. It had been unlocked the whole time. I do a quick check with my hand in the backseat for any possible murderers that might be hanging around there, but there's nothing there. Fast forward 30 minutes, I've called a friend of mine who says he is out drinking, so I decide I'm going to join him. I jump on my bicycle and start riding over. I'm doodling along the road on my bike. It's a nice night and I'm in no big rush, just enjoying the moonlight, when I hear someone riding behind me. I straighten up and stick to one side of the road. He passes me really slowly, and when he is right beside me, he shoots me a smile I can describe as purely freaking insane. I kind of flinch and am taken aback as he rides on. That's when I realize he is riding my mom's bike. Needless to say, I sprint home. When I get there, sure enough, her bike is missing and one of my car's doors is open. The back left one. I was driving, and had no need to open that door. I'd been living alone for less than a week. I got some Chinese takeout and was eating in front of the TV. I finished my meal and cracked open the fortune cookie. It read, "You will have a visitor tonight. Lock your door." There were no visitors that night. But the memory still haunts me. There were no visitors that night. Because you locked your door. Yeah. Totally dodged a bullet. I was once in a hot tub with some friends late at night, and we were all telling some stories. One of the guys told us this one. A story of a girl he knows, not sure if it's true. But multiple people in the hot tub who knew her verified it was true. So one day, this girl was called over to babysit. She did it a lot for these people, so it was routine for her. Anyways, she was told to put the kids to bed at 9. And she did. After she put them to bed, she started watching TV and doing homework, waiting for the parents to come home. But then, she started hearing some noises coming out of the basement, like pans falling and stuff. She just ignored it, and thought it was the washing machine or something. Anyways, a little later, she starts hearing the noises again. She decides to call the police, and tell them she was hearing noises coming out of the basement at the house she's babysitting at. The lady at the station told her there's a patroller in her area, and that he'll be at the house in about 20 minutes. Anyways, in about 5 minutes, she hears a knock on the door. She answers, and it's a full SWAT team. She asked, "I thought they were just sending a patroller." And one of the guys told her, "After you hung up the phone, we heard a second phone on the line hang up." Ended up there was a man in the basement, listening to the conversation. The lady in the station waited and heard him hang up, then immediately sent the SWAT team to help. They went downstairs and caught him. He was wanted for multiple cases of assault. Nope. My dad died of cancer the day I turned 16 after about 2 weeks in a coma. It was really fast, less than 2 months between diagnosis and death. He died in the house. We had a hospice attendant and my mom was very good about seeing to him in those final days. Anyway, a lot of weird shish happened after he passed. But the one that still freaks me out when I think about it happened about 12 hours before he took to bed for the last time. He was in our living room napping on the couch while my mom was in the kitchen cooking. No one else was home. Suddenly, he jerked awake and was shouting for my mom in a very loud, agitated voice, clearly angry with her. "Beverly, don't do that. Don't ever do that again." She ran into the room, alarmed, and asked what he was talking about. And he said, "Don't do that. Don't walk past me like that in that long black wig. Sometimes I think he saw death. Ooh. This one got me shivering at work now. After living in my house alone for 8 years, I came to the realization that I had closed a lot more doors than I had opened. I'm still not sure if this is about being a failure in life or spooky ghosts. There is a thread somewhere that described a guy taking a scenic route in the middle of the night to get to a certain town. He was driving up a hill and came upon a car accident with 2 cars on the side of the road and a person lying down on the ground. For some reason he caught a bad vibe from it and slowly drove past the scene. He stopped about 100 feet past it, looked behind him, and the person on the ground was standing up and staring at him, with about 20 other people coming out of the woods. Nope. Carjackers most likely. You stop to help and they rob you. I was babysitting my nieces one Friday night while my brother-in-law took his wife to dinner. She has a strict bedtime of 8 p.m. So after successfully getting her to sleep, no small task, I decided I would watch the Skyfall movie that people wouldn't shut up about. About halfway into the movie, I am absolutely chilled to the bone when Sophie, who sneaked out of bed and behind the couch, says directly into my ear, mere inches away, "You know James Bond murdered Jesus, right?" I haven't offered to watch her again. The only chilling and creepy thing I find about that is that you refer to your sister as your brother-in-law's wife. I've posted this before a long time ago, but it still remains by far the single creepiest thing that ever happened to me. So here goes. I was in Taiwan one year when I was younger, and had traveled to a busy night market. These are popular gatherings of food shop stalls that usually operate in the evening. Nearby I spotted a sign for a net cafe in a 5 to 6 story tall building. Thinking I'd fire off some quick emails, I walked in the dark, small entrance of the building. The building was older and hasn't been well maintained. But it's not out of the ordinary in Taiwan. The entrance just had a dark hallway that led to a small elevator. I pressed the elevator call button and entered. The elevator was uncharacteristically new compared to the building, but I didn't think much of it. Like some Chinese, Taiwanese buildings, there wasn't a 4th floor. It's considered bad luck since 4 sounds like death. So it just read 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, which was usual. I looked for the floor the net cafe was at, 6th floor, and pressed the button. It lurched into action quietly and began the ascent. When it stopped, I figured it was my floor, so I instinctively began to step out. Right before stepping out, however, the sight outside the elevator stopped me. It was pitch dark, only lit by the light in the elevator. It looked like it hasn't been occupied for decades, with some random pieces of furniture covered with white cloth or similar. It was a small building, so each floor were single occupancy, so I could see pretty much the entire floor from the elevator. Thinking I must have gotten the wrong floor, I checked the light that indicates which floor you're on. Strangely, there was nothing. None of the indicators were on. But the floor button to the net cafe was still lit, so I know I haven't gotten there yet. All this happened within a couple of seconds. That's when I noticed a figure moving in the distance of the floor. It was not very visible, but I could make out what looks like a person dressed in some kind of gown, moving slowly towards the elevator. Where I was thoroughly creeped out. So I started pressing the close door button. As soon as I pressed it, the elevator light flickered off, and I am in pitch dark. I am this close to pissing my pants, and it's actually kind of freaking me out thinking back to it. The lights flickered back on under a second and the door closed. The elevator jolted back to life. A few moments later it opened again to the net cafe. I am beyond relieved at this point. I walked out immediately and sat down at a computer. After gathering my wits a bit, I walked over to the cashier's desk and told them what I saw. The girl working there listened and her face turned a bit ashen. So I asked her if she heard of similar. She told me that she's never experienced it, but some coworkers and occasional customers have brought it up. Basically, the building has 6 floors, and the fourth floor had a history. Apparently the floor used to be a hair salon of sorts. Until one of the employees offed herself there for some reason. The store continued operations despite stories of weird appearances when customers got their hair rinsed, the water would look a little red. Little things like that. And a couple people reported seeing someone's figure walking away in the mirror. But wouldn't see anyone when they turned to check. Naturally. The business closed down a few months later. The building owner tried to re-rent the place out. But never had any luck. Most businesses are quite superstitious. And no one wanted to rent the fourth floor after what had happened. Even at a very cheap price. Finally. After dropping the price to nearly nothing. A stationery supplies store wanted to rent. During the renovations of the floor. However. Several accidents would happen. Tools would end up in strange places. A mirror from the previous business shattered when no one was near it. And finally a worker had his hand jammed between the elevator doors when it closed on him unexpectedly. The workers refused to continue working and finally, the business left and the building owner finally gave up and shut down the floor. He then had the elevator company come in to replace the panel so that the elevator could not go to the fourth floor. Let me repeat that the elevator was programmed to never go to the fourth floor. It doesn't even have a button. But for some reason, sometimes when people take the elevator, it would go to the fourth floor and the doors would open. And some, like myself, would see a figure walking around in the dark. Yep, that's creepy as shish. One morning last December around 4 a.m. I wake up to a piercing, shrill, alarm-like noise. In a panic I jump out of bed thinking it might be a phone or my car alarm or something, but as I was trying to locate the origin of the noise, I realized it didn't change frequency or volume regardless of where I was in the house. There was no point of origin as far as I could tell with my semi-conscious brain. So I'm stumbling around in complete darkness with a tiny flashlight when I think to myself, how stupid am I? I just did the cliché horror film thing and started walking around in the dark instead of turning on the lights. I find the light switch, click, click, click. 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 It doesn't work. I look outside. The whole neighborhood's pitch black. No street lights. No cars. Nothing. I grab the phone. It's dead. I find my mobile and call a friend. They don't pick up, probably because it was 4 in the effing morning. However, my twisted brain led me to the conclusion that something awful had happened, so there I am. The shrill noise is still there in the background. I'm standing in complete darkness. And perhaps the sleep deprivation combined with the rush of adrenaline caused by my immense fear led me to the notion that the end of the world had arrived. I thought, whatever's happening doesn't matter. The adrenaline was wearing off and I felt exhausted and pretty down in general, so I slinked off back to bed. Falling asleep thinking I'd rather die peacefully in my sleep than fully aware of imminent death in the darkness. That day, I found out our power had been cut in the night, which set off a neighbor's home security system. He wasn't home to turn it off, which explains the lack of electricity and the awful noise. Woke up one night around 1 a.m. Heard the shower was on. I first thought it was my brother. He works night shifts. So thought he had came home late and was in the shower. It went on for about half an hour until I got up and went to see WTF he was doing. No one was in the shower. My brother wasn't home yet. I was the only one in the house. Still to this day, I have no idea how it turned on or who did it. Almost 5 years later I still think about it and shish myself. Even writing this now I feel like turning every light on in the house. Aha, why do I do this to myself? I also had this once. I came home and heard the shower was on. I moved to the kitchen, my bathroom is connected through the kitchen. And see loads of steam coming out the bathroom. At this point I was scared beyond belief. But I had to check it out. So I checked it out and the shower was on with streaming hot water. The only logical explanation is that I have a shower mat, which I usually drape over the shower head. And the shower mat had fallen down. So I can conclude the shower mat hit the heat valve. Right? No.